Okay, so hey guys, welcome back to Tux Plus, and in this part of the series we're going to go ahead and start creating or finishing off the top half of this case. So last part we created these USB holes, and we still need to go ahead and create one on the top here, and we also need to create a firewire port as well on the top. So let's go ahead and crack on with that. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate this piece, and probably I think the USB port is roughly around this area. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and probably tweak some of these edges, make it a little bit smaller, and let's go ahead and just delete that. So we roughly block out where this is, and let's also block out where the firewire would be. So I'm going to go ahead and delete two of these, and possibly we're going to have to make a cut here, but I'm going to first delete that as well. So roughly we know where these holes are going to be. So next we need to go ahead and straighten everything up again. So let's go ahead and go into our top view, and I'm going to go ahead and select these verts here, deselect these, select my scale tool, and again make sure that if you go into a perspective mode, okay, it's already set, so make sure that it's set on normal's average when we go ahead and straighten this out. So I'm going to straighten this out, and then I'm going to go ahead and select these guys as well. I'm going to make sure they set on normal's average and straighten this out as well. And don't worry too much about these edges for now. Okay, so once we have that, let's go ahead and select these and straighten these out as well, just to make sure that these are straight. And same with the bottom. Same with the top half of this one, and then we only need to go ahead and do the bottom, like so. Okay, so that's great. Now these are straight. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to go ahead and make these smaller because they're too big. So I'm going to select these, select my move tool, make sure that it's still on normal's average. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this up. So it's roughly the same width as these USBs here. So probably somewhere around here, maybe a bit more. I'm just going to move this guy further up, and that seems pretty good. Okay, so now I'm just checking out the height. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to move some of these, and also I'm going to move this further in. So I'm just checking in relation to this one, roughly how big it is. Maybe it's still a bit too big. So I'm going to drag this up a bit more, and hopefully we didn't move it too much. So what we need to make sure is that because this is on a slope, that we don't start creating any artifacts here, but it seems pretty good. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and block out the firewire as well. So I'm going to select these guys and move these up. And this one is roughly the same width as the USB. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to make it roughly the same, and then select these, move these in. And the firewire is actually shorter than the USB, so I'm going to select these two guys and move them in, and we can actually delete these edges in between here, like so. So again, I'm going to select these and move them in to about here. And then we're going to have to go ahead and add extra two edges here so we can add the division that it needs. So I'm just going to go ahead and use our insert edge loop tool and add one in here and add another one in here. And then this will allow us to go ahead and grab these three vertices and just drag them out. And I can drag it up as well, so it's roughly symmetrical as well. Maybe drag it a bit more. Then I'm just going to go into my top view to make sure that this looks good. So that looks pretty good. These lines here might trick your eye, but I'm just trying to focus on these two edges. Okay, so that looks pretty good, roughly. It will do. Okay, so now that we have these blocked out, we just need to go ahead and again give it some depth, and then make sure that these edges are not causing us any issues, and then give it the supporting edges that we need. So I'm just going to select this ring, and I'll also select this ring to do both of them at the same time, and then extrude. And press W and just drag these down, give it some depth. Okay, so now I'm just trying to make sure they roughly have the same depth, even though it doesn't really matter yet. So once we have that, as you see here, we need to go ahead and give it the supporting edges again. And I actually forgotten to scale these in first, so I'm just going to go ahead and undo the extrude, and first I'm going to go ahead and give it some offset. Oops, that's too much. It might help if I slow down my slider, like so. Okay, and then extrude it again. Push it down a little bit to give us that supporting edge, and then extrude it again with hitting the G key, and then drag it down. Okay, so that's all great. Now we just need to go ahead and add in the supporting edges here, so it will hold its hard edges when we smooth this. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with this one on the top. And I'm thinking that we will actually go ahead and modify this extrude. It might have been easier if we didn't offset it. So let's just go ahead and use our insert edge loop tool. And I'm going to go ahead and add them in. So we'll need one around here, and I'm not too worried where these go yet. We'll go ahead and sort it all out in a second. I just want to make sure that these will go ahead and smooth properly, and then once it does, then we'll worry about the edge loops, so sorting them out. Okay, so we need one more here, and it should be pretty good. And actually I will go ahead and add two here, just to make sure that these edges don't slide too far up. So now when we go ahead and smooth, as you can see, we get a pretty good result. I might go ahead and drag this edge up. Okay, so that looks quite nice. So now let's go ahead and sort out these edges. So we could actually, let me see, we could actually just tie these ones off here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to select my merge vertex tool, and let's just go ahead and tie these off here, and then we'll go ahead and delete those edges there that we don't need. So again, this one I'm going to tie it off here, and let's tie this one off here and this one here, and we should only have two left. And this one we don't have to tie off anywhere because it will help us to create this supporting edge, so I'm going to leave that as it is. And now let's just go back and delete these edges that we don't need anymore. So I'm just double clicking these, and then delete edge, and do the same thing on the top. Okay, so this guy doesn't want to go around. Oops, actually it shouldn't, because we only need to delete this half. and then make sure that we come down here, make sure that it goes all the way around, and then delete. Okay, and now let's delete this one. Okay, that's great. So let's go ahead and delete this last one. Let's go ahead and smooth it. Okay, and we're not getting any artifacting, and it looks great. So we can get away with these triangles here because it's a flat surface, so as you can see it's not going to give us any issues. So now let's go ahead and finish off this bottom port as well. So just use our insert edge loop tool again, and don't worry about where the edges are going, just adding the supporting edges that we need. And then we'll go ahead and clean this up. Okay, so we need some on the bottom as well. And this should be our last corner. And luckily we already got one. Cool. So let's go ahead and smooth this, see if everything's looking great. It seems a bit soft. So let's go ahead and drag this one up a little bit. We might want to go ahead and add in an extra edge. I mean, we're not going to come up really close to it, so it should be still fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and clean up the edges. So again, we can use the same technique of tying these off. So I'm just going to use the merge vertex tool and start tying these off. Okay, so that's my supporting edge. I'm going to do it there. And let's see, you can tie these off here as well. And hopefully it won't cause us any issues. And we only need to do this one. Whoops, just the other way around. So this way, and that's it. So let's go ahead and clean up now. So double click the edges and make sure we hold down Shift. Okay. So it's a fairly easy process. It's nothing too complex, as long as you have an idea of what needs to be done. Okay, so I think that is it. Let's go ahead and delete the edges, smooth, and see how it's looking. Okay, so we don't get any artifacting. It looks great. Cool, so let's go ahead and add in the last piece for this top hole, which is simply just a tiny little LED hole here, and it's in the middle of here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, we'll probably just add it here. So let's go ahead and move these two edges. So I'm going to select both of them, or actually I'll only move this one, and make sure that I have normal's average, and then move this down. We might want to scale this one as well. And move this up, so I just want to go ahead and straighten these. So let's go into our top view. And select vertex and just move it roughly in the center. Okay, so once we have that, we can go ahead and delete this. So when we go ahead and smooth it, it will give us a rough hole. And I think actually this is too far away, so let's go ahead and undo that. And I think we're going to go ahead and add one maybe a bit further in. So I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. And let's go ahead and select this edge all the way to the end. And it doesn't want to because we have these triangles. Let's see. Okay, no problem. So what we're going to go ahead and do instead is probably just move this edge further in. So I'm just going to double click. Okay, and then deselect these. Like so. And let's go ahead and slide this in. And hopefully this is not going to give us any issues here. Okay, so that's great. And just make sure that on the top here, these are lining up. Like so. And what we're going to do is just add in an extra edge loop here. Okay, and it doesn't go all the way around here. And we've forgotten to delete one of these edges, so I'm just going to select that and delete that. So now this edge should go all the way around. So let's go ahead and add one in again. Okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and go back to edge mode, delete these or deselect those guys, and keep that one. And then move this one in. Okay, so that should work. Just going to smooth to make sure we don't get any issues here. And now we just need to go ahead and delete one of these. See how that looks when we smooth it. Okay, so we need to go ahead and straighten this out, or we can actually make this a little bit nicer once we straighten this out. So I'm just gonna select that word and snap it up here, select this one, snap it here, and select all four, move it down. Okay. So we could add in an extra edge going in the middle to make sure that this will smooth a little bit nicer, or we can just play with this to make sure that it's roughly a circle. So I don't really want to give it any extra divisions because it's so small. So I think that should be fine. Still looks a bit like an oval. Okay, that should do it. I don't want to tweak it so much in the tutorial. So now we can just select that edge loop and extrude it, give an offset, tiny offset, and then extrude it again, drag it down to give us the supporting edge, and do it again, and there we go, we have our hole. Let's go ahead and smooth it, and it looks pretty good. Okay, so if you come up really close to it, you see the jaggedy line because we didn't add in many divisions, but we are really not going to go any close to it, and because it's such a small detail, that will be perfectly fine. Okay, so we have our top piece created. Let's go ahead and finish this off by adding in the main slider here. So I'm just going to unisolate, and let's go ahead and create a cylinder. And we can turn out divisions a little bit, so maybe around 16. delete. So I'm going to select all of these and then deselect these so you can delete the bottom half. And now I'm going to select this guy and snap it up so it's roughly in the right position. Go into my top view and just drag it there roughly. Scroll it down. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do, just to make sure that this is lining up properly, so I'm going to select that axis and also make sure that we have center pivot. Go into my top view and let's just move my perspective camera out of the way. So now I'm going to go ahead and line this axis up with this vertex and then this one up with that one, so it should be roughly perfectly in the center. And now I can scale it a little bit, pull it down, and let me just see, let's go ahead and select all of these bottom vertices, drag them up, because we need to go ahead and scale this a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to select these faces and let's extrude them, bring them up, scale them in. And maybe do it one more time. To give us this shape. That looks quite good. Let's go and move this up a little bit more. Might be a bit soft, so let's go ahead and add a supporting edge. Okay, that looks great. And I think it's actually the right height as well. Maybe move it down a little bit. So that's the fan controller. Seems to fit perfectly. Let's go. Let's see how far it goes in. I'm just going to select the. Oops. Select all of these verts and just pull it down a bit more. I'll actually snap it to this one. Could scale it a tiny bit more as well. Okay, that looks great. So let's move it. And we have our piece nearly finished. Actually, let's go ahead and just scale this in a tiny bit more. So I'm going to select those two, scale them in, and then select this one and scale this in a tad. Smooth it. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Maybe we can tweak it a little bit more later on, but that looks pretty good for now. Okay, so that's great. So in the next part, we're going to go ahead and finish off this piece. So if you turn on our mesh, as you can see, we still have two pieces missing here. So this is actually, this piece is connected to the sides on the top. So we're going to have to go ahead and extrude this out here. And then in between here, there's actually the power button and the reset button that we need to go ahead and model in. So we'll go ahead and do that in the next part. Thanks for watching.